Well, the city of Toronto lost its bid to ban Uber from operating. I have criminal defense attorney Ed Prutschi here with me to sort of break this all down. You and I have discussed this before. I think what found most astonishing about what the court ruled was that Uber can operate without a license because it's a technology company, not a taxi company.
Right. The decision from the court essentially said that the way the city of Toronto was trying to define what is a taxi company was so broad that it could include even a Yellow Pages directory, for example. Anybody who was making the connection between rider and driver was considered a taxi company, and that was far too vague, far too broad from the court's perspective. So they blew the whole thing up, and that effectively meant that Uber was, or at least for the time being, unregulated, no injunction.
So now, of course, Uber's allowed to operate. It's here to stay. I think you'd predicted that last time.
Yeah, we got that right.
But the ball's back in the courts of the city. Now they have to, I guess, amend the bylaws. Is that the case?
Well, they don't have to do anything. But of course, City Council and John Tory leading City Council has said that they do have an intention to regulate Uber in some way or another. And he brought the parties together yesterday in an effort to try to say, let's get cab companies and let's get Uber on the same page and create one bylaw to rule them all, as it were, a little Lord of the Rings for bylaws.
Okay, but is this an instance where the city is going to destroy Uber through regulation?
Well, I don't think that's the city's intent, although it may be the effect. It's certainly not the mayor's intent. He's made it very clear, Mayor Tory has, that he wants to see a place for Uber in the city's taxi structure. He believes that this technology opportunity is something that basically is here to stay, and it's to the benefit of consumers and ultimately to the benefit of the people in the city. Now, whether City Council comes along with that, who knows? And I think the broader question is, once Uber is subject to any form of regulation, and it's clear that the bylaw is going to target Uber in some way, is it still profitable? I mean, part of what's made Uber so structurally quick and able to react and turn around and grow so incredibly fast has been that basically it isn't regulated. It can do whatever it wants.
Right. What would that regulation look like for Uber?
There's so many possibilities here. I mean, some of the obvious ones would be mandating some type of insurance. Uber says that their drivers have it, but they haven't indicated to us what that is.
And I think that's something that's really been missed in all of this, is the whole debate about insurance, because insurance drivers, people that drive for Uber are not required to get insurance, and that's something that I think has been missed in this whole debate, has it not?
I think it's a huge question. I mean, Uber says that the company itself has insurance, and the drivers themselves have personal insurance. Right. I mean, I've said this before, I don't believe a single personal insurance policy is going to cover somebody who's acting as an Uber driver. If I'm that insurer, I say, wait a second, you've completely changed the nature of our relationship if you're doing rides for hire. And if you're going to do that, we want some sort of corporate commercial policy in place. Uber's policy protects the company, but it's not clear whether it protects the drivers who are working for the company. We also get into all sorts of employment questions. There already have been litigation in places like California, the question of whether Uber drivers are employees of the company or are they just independent operators. There are all sorts of questions about that. What kinds of criminal background checks need to be done? What kind of licensing? And of course, this always comes up. Where's the city going to take its bite of this pie? Because inevitably, when it comes to regular taxi cabs, of course, part of that money ends up in city coffers. There are licensing fees and taxes that go as a result of that. Right now, Uber skirts all of those things.
Well, it'd be interesting to see. I'll ask you to make a very quick prediction. Is Uber here to stay for the second time?
I still think Uber is here to stay. I think the profitability of Uber is going to change a little bit. I think you're going to see it shrink and contract a little bit in response to the bylaw. Now, how quick we're going to get that bylaw, if you remember, I think it was 3 years ago, the city went through a huge taxi bylaw sort of rejig and reset the entire bylaw. And now only 3 years later, the usefulness of that bylaw, the applicability of that bylaw is completely in the trash because of technology. So how quickly can the city actually get around to creating another bylaw that deals with the new realities on the ground? And will they do it before the ground shifts on them yet again? I don't know the answer to that one.
No, before the ground shifts. That's interesting. All right, Ed, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.